You're listening to episode 168 of the Tennis Files podcast on the 5 biggest mistakes that USTA players make. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. My name is Mirban Aranshad, a former Division I college tennis player, and on the show I interview the world's top pros, coaches, and experts to help you improve your tennis game. And today is a little bit of a different type of episode. I recently talked with my good friend Peter Freeman from Crunch Time Coaching, where he actually interviewed me, which is a nice seat change, if you will, where I am usually the one doing the interviewing. And he asked me to present on the 5 biggest mistakes that USTA players make. And, I came up with a list based on what I've seen and even mistakes that I have done as well on the court and before matches. And I think that if you pay attention to this episode and even just pick one of them that is something that you do incorrectly or a mistake that you make, and you work on that and improve it, I think it'll make a huge difference. Because as we know, tennis is a game of millimeters and a couple points here and there. So even a few points difference that you'll gain from each one of these 5 different mistakes is going to be really helpful for your game. So that's pretty much it for the intro. Although I do want to mention that this interview that Pete did with me is a preparation or a warm-up for TennisCon 4, which is happening very soon, actually on October 18th. And I'm really excited to be a coach on there. And I'll be talking about how you can implement offensive topspin lobs in your game. It's a really great stroke and something that you should be learning. And you can learn it at TennisCon 4 if you sign up. You can check it out for free. And you just have to go to tennisfiles.com/tenniscon4. That's tennisfiles.com/tenniscon4, which is tenniscon4. I knew you knew how to spell tennis, but might as well just spell it all out, right? So again, I really hope to see you there. It's a great event that Pete hosts. But first, let's get into this interview that Pete did with me. So without further ado, here is Pete's interview with me on the 5 biggest mistakes that USTA players make.
We're here for Mirban. Actually, he's got today 5 big mistakes that USTA players are making out there. Why did you decide on this topic?
So I decided on this topic, Peter, and thanks for having me on. It's always, like you said, really a lot of fun to talk to you. I participate, excuse me for stuttering, in USTA leagues a ton, and I have a lot of friends who play in them, and we strategize and we talk about ways that we can improve. And I'm also the VP of my county tennis association, so I'm constantly trying to improve participation as well in the league. So it's just natural topic for me to try to help out USTA league players who I think can really benefit from today's session.
Somebody said she's gone by Hall & Oates. No, Lindy. Okay, so first of all, let me get this straight. You're a lawyer. Mm-hmm. You run the Tennis Summit, which is absolutely huge.
Thank you.
You have a podcast called The Tennis Files, which is picked up by the Tennis Channel.
Mm-hmm.
You play on USTA league teams, and you're what was the title again that you're doing?
Oh, I'm a vice president of the of Montgomery County Tennis Association.
My gosh. Okay, I'm feeling very bad about myself right now.
No, you do so much too. I mean, I just don't have a life outside of that. That's all.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's a lot of fun.
I know you do a great job. So you know what? You asked me to make banners, and I delivered. Delivered. So
sweet.
Should we get right into this now? Again, let's tell everybody a little bit about your play. What are you playing now? What level? First of all, let's go into junior and then college, and then what you're doing right now for USTA.
Yeah, perfect. That'll be fun. Yeah, so I played a ton of junior tournaments when I was young. My highest ranking was number 7 in the Mid-Atlantic section when I was in the 16s, and I got to play Super National, the clay courts in DC, which was really cool because I live right around there. yeah, and then so I played in college, Division One, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Then took a few years off while I was in law school, and then fortunately, my best friend Victor got me back into tennis by the USTA leagues, which I found and have found to be just so much fun and connecting with so many great people. And yeah, so now I play 5-0 tennis leagues, USTA leagues. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Pretty good. Pretty good. That's awesome. I'm proud of you. Now, what made you decide to take it a step further? I know it's a little bit off topic, but I think people will be interested. What made you decide to go from, okay, my friend got me back into tennis, I'll play league, into all of a sudden like going crazy with tennis? I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do this summit. Like, what made you decide to go that route?
Yeah, I think I've always had this creative side, and I obviously have this full-time job, but I was thinking of ways that I could be creative or have like some sort of side thing going on. And then so one day I was searching for some tennis tips. I think it was on the backhand, and clearly I didn't end up on Crunch Time Coaching, but I figured, you know what, I feel like I can also contribute. Like, I played for decades and have some good knowledge to share, and it would be fun for me as well to document, what I learned along the way as well. So that's how I ended up starting Tennis Files. And then as far as the podcast, I was searching for a tennis podcast, and I didn't find any at the time that was interviewing players and coaches. So whether that's through my poor searching skills or whatnot, or there not being any. So I just figured, hey, you know what? Like, let's look into how we can create this. And it actually wasn't so bad. So, and I was interested enough to actually go forth with it. And just from there, I'm just trying to learn from great people like yourself and others on how to provide further value. And so there's a myriad of ways to do that. So like this live stream here. So
yeah, that's awesome. And congratulations to you. I think you're right in front of the podcast explosion, and definitely one of the first. So, you are creative, you are a visionary. And I know for me, doing these interviews, doing Tennis Con, you doing the Tennis Summit, it's like when you interview all these people, you just get loaded up with all this tennis knowledge that you want to teach to other people and that you want to use yourself when you're on the court, whether it's a technical tip or a mental thing. So it's really, really awesome. We got 78 people on, so I'm sure they're like, guys, get to the lesson. It's my lunchtime. I got to learn what's wrong with me. What mistake am I making here? So here it is. Number one, bam. Maribon, take it away. What do you mean?
Perfect.
Don't perform a dynamic warm-up. Big deal. I can go out there. I'm a warrior. I go out there to start hitting, playing. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I first kind of realized this because I constantly was having a very poor start when I was playing these matches, and I was trying to figure out like what is the problem here. But I realized that what I was doing was I was just showing up to the court and then playing, having a 5-minute warm up and then playing tennis. And so I've done all these interviews and things like that. And, one in particular was with Dr. Mark Kovacs of the Kovacs Institute. And they've done studies on this. And, performing a dynamic warm up is much more effective than what a lot of people do in performing these static stretches. And so in case you don't know exactly what a dynamic warm-up is, it is essentially active movements that mimic the movements that you make on the tennis court. So some examples are walking knee hugs, monster walks, and twists. And I want to just bring up, do a quick screen share. It's just going to be pretty brief, actually, but let's see, application window. And so it's just a video of doing some of these dynamic warm-ups. So can you see that?
I put it right in. People are seeing you work out, getting those knees up and pulling. Yeah, so you're not holding it, you're picking it up.
Exactly. So there's a bunch of different, dynamic warm-up exercises. And the great thing about this is you don't need a tennis court. I mean, obviously it is kind of nice, like if you do have the opportunity to perform these on a tennis court, you can do that. But a lot of times with USTA league matches, especially if they're indoors, we're actually not able to take the tennis court in advance. So you can just find any empty space and you can do these types of exercises. And what you're going to find is that you're going to be much more primed, or your muscles will be much more primed to to one, perform at their best, and then two, to be able to prevent injuries as well. So I really find that the dynamic warm up is a great way to just prepare yourself for these matches. And so, the next time that you go to a match, a USTA League match, or even any match, and you have that urge to like talk with your teammates for like 10, 15. I mean, that's okay, but you can still do some of these movements while talking to them. But I find that the most serious players, and I can even remember back to the junior days, and obviously the pro days, professional players right now, they're taking this 30 minutes, an hour even, to perform the dynamic warm up. And so, you just have to kind of fight that urge to just tell yourself, like Pete said, oh, like I'll be fine, because that could be the difference between injuring yourself. It could be the difference between winning and losing. So the dynamic warm up is really important. And I want to know how many of you actually perform the dynamic warm up before your matches and playing. Pete, is that something that you do as well?
Is that something I do as well? I do it better now, to be honest. But there was a time when I didn't do it as much as I should have been doing. I fully admit that. And another thing that I found very interesting is I was listening to this one guy. He was basically giving like life advice, and he was talking about productivity. And he said that to really get a focused hour of work in, it actually takes more than an hour. Like he says, like your first 15 minutes of what you're doing, you're not going to get into a flow state anyway. It like doesn't count. So if your first 15 minutes of actually trying to get into something is to go out on the court and start hating and playing, this might be why you're down a break or two consistently. If you go and you're getting your warm up and you're getting your mind right and you're doing the dynamic warm ups and then, next even shadow stroking, like one thing that's cool is now more than ever, we get access behind the scenes of what these players are doing before matches. I remember last year at the US Open when we could actually watch a crowd in the stands and all that. Remember those crazy times? They showed Rafa behind the scenes and he was doing all these dynamic warm-ups, just like you were doing. And then he got his racket and he's doing all this hitting. So when he goes out on the court, he's like totally in the zone. He's revved up, he's geared up, and he's ready to go. So for your next match, next time someone comes up and starts to talk to you and asks you if you want some cheese balls, you just tell them, no, get away. I'm warming up. I'm getting ready. I'm pumped up. It's time to go. So I totally agree with you, Maribon. Nice stuff. And way to call me out on being not doing the right thing. I appreciate that.
Hey, I'll call myself out. I remember when I was a junior and I was in the 16s, ranked like decently high, all that top 10. But one of my friends, Tret Huey, who is now a professional tennis player, he's a very solidly ranked doubles player and also reached like the semis of Wimbledon, I think. And so before my match at one of these championship tournaments, I was just actually chilling in the car like 15 minutes before. And my rationale was that I didn't want to tire myself out by warming up. And then so she saw me in the car and she banged on the window and she said, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, you need to warm up." So I appreciated that from Tret's mom, and you can obviously see, where he is now on the pro circuit. So
that's awesome. You know what else I appreciate? John Craig, Performance Plus Tennis, who's another TennisCon All-Star, taking time out of his busy day to join us again for a second week in a row. And John, today, text me. We have to, maybe next Friday, we can go and we can teach the people something. Because I want to do a lot of these live streams going into TennisCon and continuing it through TennisCon. We're going to do a ton of live streams, guys. So if you love these, keep staying tuned to the channel and definitely Maribon's channel. Okay, are you ready for the next one? Look at this. As a senior 55 player, which first of all, Bruce looks like he's in darn good shape. It's very important to warm up and prevent injury. Just looking at Bruce's picture here, and Bruce, I hope you don't mind if I'm just going to brag on you a little bit. One of the things that I'm noticing, the people who go online and learn tennis, like if you just go out to a regular tennis court and you see people over 40 years old, it's like watching an episode of, what's that zombie show? The Walking Dead or something like that?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, that's what it's like lots of times, unfortunately. But the more people I get to know who study stuff online, they're the fittest and the brightest. I'm serious. Like they come visit me all over the place. They're always super fit. Even people in their 70s. I had one guy in his 80s He might have been in better shape than me, Maribon. I'm not going to lie. I'm not kidding. So you guys are an inspiration to us. That's why we come on. That's why we do this. You guys are awesome. Look at Charlie. Look at that forehand Charlie's hitting. Love you guys. You guys are incredible. Okay, next one. Bam.
Beautiful, beautiful. And by the way, you can check out that dynamic warm-up video on YouTube. But all right, number 2, don't recognize patterns and make strategic adjustments. This is a mistake. So obviously, I find that a lot of USTA players are not recognizing what's going on in their matches, and then they're not making adjustments as well. I mean, I've been to, sectionals, nationals, regionals, local matches, and I've observed, it's really important to observe your own matches and also other matches, and to try to pick up on what people are doing and not doing. And so I see that people and players are not able to pick up on their opponent's habits. And the best players are conversely always finding and implementing solutions against their opponents. I mean, there's, one example I remember from last year. I was at sectionals and I was watching a 3.5 doubles match. And then, you'd see the two players at the baseline just hitting 10, 20, 30 ground strokes at cross court at each other. And then you look at the net players and you recognize that they're not really thinking about what's going on. They're not making any adjustments. They're not trying to poach. They're not even trying to move up and back, depending on where the, who's hitting the ball and where the ball is at, as far as offense and defense. And so these are things that you really, when the point is going on, you have to kind of think to yourself, like, what can I do to seize the advantage during these points? So an example of some adjustments that I like to make are, if an opponent is serving to my backhand quite a bit, one adjustment that I like to make is I take a couple steps to my left. I'm a righty. And so in that way, sometimes I'll kind of bait them to serving to my forehand, which I like. So that's an example of one adjustment. Also, if a player shows me that he or she is not able to volley that well, I might hit a shorter slice and then cause them to come up to the net and then make them play where they're not comfortable. Another adjustment is if a player lobs me, if they keep lobbing me, say if I'm like a net player when we're playing doubles, then I'll make sure to kind of stand a bit farther back. And, if a player never is lobbing me in a singles match or even a doubles match, I might actually encroach a little further up towards the net. So again, it's just something that I've noticed that, you always got to keep using the noggin, to recognize what is going on and make the adjustments, because tennis is a game of millimeters and a game of, points. Like 1 or 2 points could make the difference between winning a set and a match. So I really just want to emphasize to you, it's also very rewarding when you can pick up on something that's going on and then find a solution and then execute on that, what you found, and then actually win. That is probably the most rewarding, to know that I've used my brain and what I've learned to recognize and then, implement a winning play. So that's the second mistake I think people make, is they don't recognize patterns and implement adjustments.
Mirabon, I just got a question for you. How do you use the word like noggin, like an old man term like noggin, and not know who the Eagles are? Just doesn't make sense to me. But what does make sense is everything that you just said. In fact, first of all, I just got to stop for a second. Mirabon, let's give them a golf clap, everybody. Golf clap. We have 111 now on, taking time out of their day to share their passion with us, which is really, really awesome. So thank you guys for being here. And as you were talking about making adjustments, strategic adjustments, it reminded me of Jorge Capistani's coaching. He's a USPTA Master Pro and a USPTR Master Pro. Now, only 1% of the teaching world has accomplished that. I've looked at what it takes to become a Master Pro in either of them, and I said, forget it. That's way too much. And then he's the only one ever to be voted the Pro of the Year in both. So he's amazing. Check him out. And one of the things that he always talks about is he's like, we're always trying to like play in the zone, and we are always so concerned about how are we going to hit the ball today. And he talks about breaking the court up into sections. and then intentionally, and which is great because I mean the court is just made up of boxes, right? And he just talks about a simple thing of like aiming in different boxes and seeing how your opponents react to that, and then figure out which box they really don't like, and then try and work the point around. Maybe you just can't go to that box they don't like. Maybe you have to go to another box to then open up the box they don't like. Okay, so you just can't think one step like, oh, just hit that box. They hate that box. You might have to think, let's hit to this box, then I bring it to that box, and then I got them, you see? So really, really good stuff. You are on a roll. And should we go forward? Any questions, guys? Oh, look at this. We have an elite pro right here saying, also understand the patterns you are establishing in a match and know when to break them. That's good too. Noticing tendencies, noticing like, I'm going to try this. I think it works. And then realizing, when is it time to cut that and go to the next thing? That's a tough thing to kind of figure out too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, sometimes you're just, doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working. I mean, you've got to change it up, just like what John said. So great stuff. John's a great guy. I enjoy having him on my summit and Tennis Con. Definitely good to see you, John.
Yeah, he's awesome. Okay, bam.
All right. Mistake number 3 is you a lot of players, they play way too passively instead of playing what I like to call smart, aggressive tennis. And when I was thinking about the topics to include for this discussion, I remembered my interview with Emilio Sanchez, who was a top 10 player in the world on the ATP Tour and also is the brother of Arantxa Sanchez Vicario. And what I remember most about his interview is he was pointing out that players are just playing way too passively. You'll watch them and there's all these balls that bounce short, and it's like they're waiting for the ball to come to them instead of moving forward and taking advantage of these balls. And this is really a massively wasted opportunity, in my opinion, and his, and a lot of people like Pete as well, because I mean, you could be putting a lot of pressure on your opponent. You could be cutting off time for their, the next shot by coming up to the net off of the approach shots. And instead, you're letting them off the hook. I mean, there's some players that I remember who I played who I knew they would never come to the net, unless they're forced to by short slice. So if they pulled me wide with a pretty good ground stroke, I knew in my head that I could actually just not hit an amazing shot. I could hit a short ball. I could hit like a slice that wasn't amazing, and I wouldn't be under any threat. Compare that with a player who is bringing the aggression and seizing every opportunity. I mean, that's scary. You don't like to play players like that. So, and sometimes, when I talk about smart or aggressive, you might see the opposite sometimes too, where players aren't really choosing the right shots to come forward off of. So I'm just going to share my screen again. These are very brief clips from a couple of my YouTube videos so that I don't, encroach upon anybody else's work. But, this is just a clip of 2 players. And then you'll notice here that, this ball is bouncing like so short. I pointed to the screen. You can't see me, but, and then the player is just hitting it and coming back like that. So that is an example of, not taking advantage of short balls and not having that offensive mindset. And then there's another example here where you have the player, it's the opposite actually, where the player they're hitting, you see where they hit the ball here, and then the player and the opponent is here in the middle of the court pretty comfortable. And yet you see the player decide to actually, and I blabber on a bit here, but the player actually ends up coming into the net. Let's see if we can kind of, yeah. So the player actually hits the ball and comes to the net. And then because of, this kind of I would say poor decision, then the player is hitting a half volley right at their foot. So that's not great. Yeah, that's pretty much where they hit it. So I just think that we have to be a little more aggressive in spots where we can be, and also be smart about it as well, and not just go insane and hit, try and hit a bunch of winners everywhere. So that's my third mistake. I think players mostly need to, on the whole, if I were to pick one side, be more aggressive, but also be aware of your aggression and play smart.
Mirban, you got me so excited about tennis. I've actually turned into a tennis court.
Pete, where are you? What?
That's me.
Oh my gosh. I have no mouth.
Yeah, actually,
there you are.
I got so excited I had to go run and get my court. My court is so pathetic though compared to like Essential Tennis is like new TV court. Oh my God, that's awesome. But
yeah,
I did want to point out, and you pointed out too, as far as playing passive, there's so many people that get really, really tough first volleys because they'll be in a cross court rally, right? And then they'll get a short ball, but they stand here and let the ball because they really want to take a good whack at it, right? They really want to take their time. So they'll hit the ball here, and then they'll run, and they can only get to about here, and now they're always getting all these first volleys right at their feet. So when you see that ball bouncing there, your job is to get up to it as far as possible. So then all you have to do is take like 1 or 2 steps, and now you're in the pole position at the net. So that's a really good idea as far as the whole idea of playing passive. And then the other thing is I was interviewing again Jorge Capucin yesterday. It was so good. Like I was thinking, wow. Like there was one clip that he talked about where I'm like, I would personally pay $67 for that, which a lifetime access pass to Tennis Con cost. And he was talking about this one story about how he developed a personal promise to himself, where he played this one guy, and 3 times in a row he lost to the guy because he just would not come over the ball on the backhand. He kept telling himself, like, you stink. Like, what is wrong with you? You're a big baby. Like, why won't you come over the ball? Like, he would just beat himself up in the parking lot. We all know how that feels, right? Just the drive home, yelling and screaming at yourself the whole way home, to where people in the next, car look at you like you're insane. Yeah. And you're like, what? I just lost a match. Leave me alone. So anyway, so he made a personal promise to himself where it wasn't about winning the next match, but it still went down to a tiebreaker. But he kept the promise in his mind, and he actually executed, went over the ball, won the tiebreaker. So, sometimes our promises to ourselves have to become more important than winning and losing. That's where I'm going with that whole thing.
Yeah, totally agree. Just got to commit.
100 people on the call.
Beautiful. I love it. I love the passion. And I also love this comment by Jeff that we have just seen a preview of Pete's Halloween costume, which is a tennis court.
That's right.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Oh, and also Mark wanted a recap of the first 3, so I can give it to him. And we'll recap all 5 later.
We're going to recap all 5 later, Mark. Mark Davis is just like, he's so high maintenance, that dude. Yeah, he's actually coming to visit me in a week. We're gonna do some tennis together.
Beautiful. Good choice, Mark.
And Mark's gonna buy me beer.
Oh, great choice.
I think so.
If you drink, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Cool.
Let's go to the next one, and then we will recap everything at the end.
Okay, perfect. So you were gonna say something, Pete?
No, I'm just looking for the next one. Way too passive. Okay. Boom.
Yes, exactly. So I want to play a quick clip. I hope that this actually plays, or actually more importantly, that the audio plays. If not, I'll recap it for you. But let me just bring it up here. Just dealing with technology, but I think we're probably okay. Pete, do you see it?
I see it, and I've just put it there.
Okay, let me know if you hear it.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, okay. No problem. Well, basically, just a little video I put together, but basically with that one is I interviewed James Blake a couple of times, actually, and it was really cool. He's a top-notch guy. I remember, actually, I'm pretty sure this was on my end, but I'm not sure, but we disconnected 3 times, and each time he was just like, he apologized. He said, oh, I'm sorry, it's probably my connection. But anyway, what he talked about in his interview with me, partly at least, was an assessment of things that you can control versus what you cannot control. And so, some things that you can't control on the court that we often get annoyed with and let it seep into our game are things like, bad calls, some minor annoyances, or people cheering against you. Maybe the court sucks. It's there's cracks on it or something. There's some wind going on. Maybe the team score, you're thinking about that. And, the main thing to think about, and I find very calming actually, is that these are things that you cannot control. You can't control any of this, especially when you're at the match. Maybe beforehand you could pick a different site or something, but you can't control any of these things. And so you're simply wasting energy if you're thinking about any of them and letting it piss you off, which a lot of us do. And so instead, what you want to do is focus on what you can control, like James spoke about on our podcast interview. You can control your focus, you can control executing your strategy to the best of your ability. You can control your desire and your will to win. That's what you can control. So, when I think about what I can versus what I can't control, it really helps me refocus and really lifts actually weight off my shoulders in a way. And this kind of brings me to a practice that I do every single day that I really encourage you all to do, or at least check out. I mean, there's so many apps on this, and it's meditation. And it's a great practice for tennis because when you meditate, it's very natural to think about other thoughts. But what you have to do is to just refocus and bring yourself back to your breath, or back to your focus on the sounds around you, or whatever it is for that day's meditation session. But this comes back to the mental game. It's so important, and it's highly undervalued, I think, over technique and strategy, which are obviously very important. There's all these different facets of the game that you need to have a high level of in order to be successful. But you just got to really, really keep in mind, like, I can't change these things. I'm going to just release and forget about it. And this is like also a life type of advice that you could just do it for anything, really. So that's the fourth mistake.
I want pizza. Oh, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. I couldn't find a motive.
Refocus. Refocus.
And I couldn't keep it in my head. No. What you just said is so true as far as the things we can't control. And I know that I was guilty of that too when I used to play a lot, is because we are perfectionists and we know what we're capable of, and we know tennis is like a performance, and we want to win, right? Like, I mean, no matter how much we listen to stuff, we're like, we want to win. So when things start to go against us, like a bad call, like the wind, like the surface is slower than you like, or whatever, or as Dominic Thiem, his shoes, right, on the court, we start to freak out. And then I was interviewing Jeff Greenwald yesterday, who is amazing. He's a sports psychologist, internationally known, and especially for tennis. And he's one of the best players over 50 in the world. Like, the guy is amazing. And he was talking about how he expects things to go wrong. Like, he looks forward for things going the wrong. And then he takes those as challenges throughout the match that he looks forward to seeing how he reacts to it. So he can learn from that. And when you think about that, that's actually pretty amazing. And it's 100% true. It's like, yes, we want to win, but when we get to a deeper level, like, why do people do anything in life, whether it's run a marathon, whether it's they're going to start a business or whatever? Of course, like, the short-term kind of like mouse thinking is like, because they want money, because they want to win. But the people who are like excellent at this stuff, they're like, no, I just love getting up every day and doing what I love to do. I love to create stuff. I love the challenges. I love my employees, or I love to know that on the 17th mile, I'm going to start cramping, but I'm still going to go anyway. Like, for the people that are highly successful, it's usually not about those first couple of things that we all think about. Like, I want to win, I want money. Like, it's deeper than that. And so if we can all get to that deeper level, then we usually achieve the things that we want when we're thinking like a mouse anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's brilliant. And, it triggered a thought. It's one day where I was just thinking about the mental game after I interviewed a mental game expert. I can't remember which one, if it was Alistair McCarr or somebody else, but, it seems like, the reason we get mad is because something that is unexpected happened. So when you were talking about the advice to kind of with that Jeff Greenwald said that, you go in there expecting things to go wrong, then that helps a lot. For example, expecting that you're going to make mistakes, that it's natural, that we're not machines that just make every single shot. When you have that expectation, then it really helps you to not get mad and to not get angry and to just refocus more quickly. So that's a great point as well. I really like that.
Thank you, my friend. Are you ready for number 4? Or is it, no, number 5?
Yeah, we're really ripping through these things. That's
number
good.
5. Well, it's
Number
just,
5.
we've actually been on for 35 minutes, but it's just because you're so awesome. And we have 130 people on with us just being awesome as well. And this is a big one.
Yes,
I got some things to say about this one too when you're done.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
For sure.
You promise you let me have my say too.
I guess. All right. So I wrote an article about this, I think a couple years ago, and it actually got a good amount of readership, I guess. But I think that, and I'm pretty passionate about this too, I think that people care too much about their NTRP ratings. And I think that Pete will probably have some similar thoughts and also semi-rage like I am about to do. Maybe not semi-rage, but, ratings are an imperfect science, first of all. I think people worry so much about it, but I've had some friends who have gotten bumped up and down, who you wouldn't expect. I had a friend who went 9-0 at sectionals and nationals, and he didn't get bumped up, which is strange, right? And then my best friend Victor, he, I guess I just outed him, but he went 1-1 on the year, right? No big deal, with one default. So I think he had to default one match, and then they bumped him down, which doesn't make any sense. And, that's just the first point to make. It's an imperfect science. But probably the most important reason why we shouldn't care about our NTRP ratings is because thinking about ratings just simply distracts you from playing your best tennis on the court. If you're constantly thinking about, oh my gosh, if I win this against this good player, I'm going to be bumped up, or vice versa. If I lose against this player who's lower rated on the weighted scale or whatever it is, I'm going to move down. Then you're already introducing more extraneous factors that really don't matter at all. If you're the type of player who wants to be focused on improving your game and reaching the next level, you shouldn't think about your ratings. Also, this is extremely, extremely annoying. And unfortunately, I've heard that there have been leagues set up just specifically for this. But you see players, they're tanking their matches. Usually at the end of the year, they see, oh my gosh, my win-loss is 13-2. Like, I'm going to get bumped up. Time to just tank and waste everyone's time. So this player will either tank a singles match or get their doubles partner to agree to tank, which is horrible. And that's just a waste of time for everybody. And what it's doing also is it's preventing you from improving. Because if you are truly giving your best effort every time on the court and not worrying about your ranking, then and trying to improve your game and watching these live streams and taking courses and whatnot, then you're going to end up reaching the next level at some point, which means you'll play better players. So if you're tanking matches, then you're actually, what are you doing? You're preventing yourself from being able to play the better players. And I've found when I play a higher level, my intensity is ramped up, and there's a little more like pressure, good pressure to have to really take advantage of the opportunity you're given. Otherwise, you're gonna probably lose the match. So I think it's very destructive to care about the NTRP ratings, and it's really funny to me that and I get it. It's an exciting time to kind of see where you're at, but so many of my friends, they're hooked on their monitors or phone or whatever it is at the very end of the year, or I guess around Thanksgiving or so, when the night before, when they change the USTA, the NTRP ratings to see where they're at. And, I think the person who is, focused on improving, they're not going to care about that. They're just going to play, they're going to improve, wherever they end up, they're going to end up, and they won't care about their ratings. But there's a lot of people that care about it. Like I said, I'm the vice president of the Montgomery County Tennis Association. We're seeing some of these results and people just tanking, and it's really unfortunate and a waste of time and money again, and it's wasting your ability to improve. So now time for you, Pete, to give your piece on this.
Well, first of all, that was great stuff, and I don't think on our live streams we have the tankers. I think that we have the players really trying to get the most out of their game. and they're learning all this cool stuff that you and I are talking about, and that all the great people that we get to interview are giving. But I there are some though. I remember this one lady I was going to do a live clinic, and she was thinking about coming out, and she was obsessed with. She's like, if I come to this clinic, when I go home, am I going to be a 4.0? Because right now I've been a 3.5 for years. And she's like, and I can play with 4.0s and I can beat 4.0s, but I keep getting rated a 3.5. I just want to come out there, and I want when I go home, I'll be a 4.0 player. And I was like, well, I can't guarantee if you come out for the weekend that you're going to be a 4.0 player. I think you're going to improve. You're going to get a lot of great information. You're going to meet a lot of great people. But it was all about her rating wanting to go up. And I noticed a lot of 3.5s. This is what's interesting to me. It's like a lot of 3.5s who say that they can play with 4.0s and beat them want to be rated a 4.0 so bad. And I just think like, well, wait a second. You've got like the best of all worlds. You can play 3.5 if you want, and then you can go play 4.02 if you want. And if you actually can hang with 4.0s and beat them, it's like 3.5 is like where 80% of the pool is as far as players to play with and friends to make. And then 4.0 is a pretty high pool too. But then after that, there's less and less people swimming in the pool. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun to play, but you have less people to play with. So, I mean, I don't think there should be a rush that you have to get that label. On the other hand, I do understand the idea of working hard towards a goal, and then there's the validation. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but I do think it gets abused. Like Rick Macy, who I interviewed 2 days ago, was talking about how it's ruining junior tennis, how it's ruining his job as a coach, as far as working with his players and the parents, how they can't stay focused and they want to play up and they want to play here and they want to go to this academy and that academy, and that they have their priorities all out of whack. And this is when it becomes dangerous. I don't think it's dangerous to go, I'm a 2.5. Someday I want to be a 3.0. Someday I want to be a 3.5. Someday I want to be a 5.0. Like that's my goal. But it should be the feedback that you're getting. Not just give me my number and I can go home and I can say I got my number. It shouldn't be like that. It should be like Jorge Capistani told me yesterday. He's like, you should be playing for one reason only. It's for feedback. You get the feedback after you win and lose. You take that feedback and you train it, the things that you're learning, and then you go test it again by playing, and then you go train it again. And it's just this loop of train, play, feedback, train, play, feedback. And that's really what we should all be doing. That's how all our goals is kind of like just fall right off the bone.
Yeah, perfectly. I agree with that. And yeah, I mean, for sure, I think it's fine to set some sort of goal maybe of trying to reach a level. But, the most important thing is like we have goals. Like we play a tournament, like of course we want to win it, but you can't really be thinking about that like when you're actually playing on the court. You have to think about your game plan, strategy, your adjustments, and so forth. So yeah, beautifully put there. Some good questions too as well, Pete, and comments. I don't know should we go to those or.
Yeah, well, what particular comment did you like?
Yeah, so Jeff had a comment or asking us our views on NTRP versus UTR rating systems. I mean, do you have any thoughts on those two systems, Pete?
First of all, I love it. The UTR. I like USTA too. I don't think one or the other is better. I think they have pros and cons. Like for me, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, 5.0, that's pretty, like it's not hard to figure out. And I think overall they do a pretty good job. Are some people misrated? Yes. But lots of times too, like don't let the rating hold you back. If you're a 3.5 and you feel you should be a 4.0, just go play some 4.0 tennis, and play your 3.5 matches too. So I don't think it's a huge problem, that thing. And it's very simple to figure out. UTR, when I first heard, I'm like, what? Like, I'm like an 11.5.75. Like, come on. It's like, it's hard enough as it is. Why are we adding all these ridiculous numbers? But then I watched a junior tournament and I saw boys playing girls. I saw midgets playing giants and all the matches were really, really close too. So you think about the pressure of that these kids are growing up with. It's like, a lot of the things that when I was younger that would have just, been so demoralizing, as far as like going to play like a little person, then losing to them badly, who I know is much younger than me, or going to play, the opposite gender and they beat you. And so, but these kids, first of all, are getting used to it. There's no, they just go out there, they just accept it. And so I think overall they're like growing up more balanced the way it should be mentally. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have had that. Like all the tournaments I went to, every time was like all boys. Maybe we had one tournament where it's boys and girls. I'm like, damn, I grew up in the wrong time. So I like the idea that anybody can play anybody. I think there's so many benefits to it. So I like them both. But I got to say, especially from a social aspect and maturity aspect, the idea of UTR and meeting all kinds of people, I like the UTR thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I actually interviewed Dave Fish. This was probably several years back when they were just starting up about the UTR. I think he's still the head coach of an Ivy League school. Was it Harvard? I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm also a fan of both. I certainly think, obviously, the USTA system can be improved, and I know the UTR is still pretty new. I don't know if there could be some sort of USTA maybe even kind of using the UTR as another checkpoint, but I don't know what they're going to do with that, if they could do that. But yeah, I'm a fan of both systems for sure, and yeah, we'll see how they do.
People did ask our rating, so yeah, Mark Davis, because he's coming out to me, he goes, I expect to be a 4-5.
Didn't you just hear what he said? Just kidding.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's so awesome, this guy, Mark Davis. He's really cool. Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, rating. What remind everybody what you're rated again.
1.4. No, I'm kidding. I'm a 5.0.
Okay. William Gonzalez got to go. See you. Thank you, William Gonzalez. 5.0. That's great. I played 5.0-ish tennis too. I would say between a 5.0, 5.5. Now I don't even know what I'm rated. I know that if I were to go play people that I consider to be at my level, I'd probably get my butt kicked, because I teach now and I'm just so into teaching. And also my back is in horrific shape. So even if I could beat somebody, it wouldn't be worth it. So that's where I am. I used to have a huge competitive drive as far as playing matches. When I get out and I do play points and stuff, I still have a very, very big competitive drive, but I don't have an ongoing hunger to where I'm like, I have to get in the league, I have to play matches and all that. I think that might be beyond me, and I'm just super excited about coaching. So I think I've really made that transition, which means I'm older. That means that I know the songs that Maribon doesn't know.
That's why.
Others, hey, look at Brent Abel, like in the 70s, still going out and gold balls. So it's not necessarily an age thing. I just think it's where you are and what you love to do. Like Rick Macy, he just loves to be coaching from sun up to sundown. And, so I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've seen you, obviously, you showcase when you're hitting strokes and playing. And I remember that the slice serve videos you did, like, you're solid, man. Solid. So we'll see. Maybe in the future, I had like a little bit of a back twinge too. So for many days, actually, I was just stretching and I was thinking, wow, it's really getting to be that time. I've got to be so much more careful with what I do. I think I just got up quickly after a nap, and then that was it. So
well, that's how it starts. That's how it starts. But I will say, when you started making your videos and your tennis summit, it looked to me like there was still some Maribon baby fat going on. And now when I watch your videos, you're looking like fit as a fiddle. You're looking like you are training to get on the tour. Am I right on that?
I actually am training a lot more. Maybe it's also because I'm sucking in my abdominals when I make these recent videos. But no, I think I'm a little better with my fitness. I've just in talking with a lot of people. I actually now every single day, as soon as I wake up, I actually exercise. That's my first thing that I do besides brushing my teeth and whatever. So I found that that's been a great habit that I've had. So thank you for recognizing. Appreciate it. You've always been thin and having a model-like physique, so I'm just trying to be a little more like you. That's it.
No. For my age, I'm still in really good shape.
You are, yeah.
the crap that I eat, unfortunately, I am lucky. I'm so streaky. Like I'll do really good and then I fall off the wagon, and then I'll do really good and I'll be like doing good and bad at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just gotta get better. But one thing I want to talk to you about before we leave here is I've noticed a consistent rising of the bar from you. Okay. To where it seems like the more I see from what you're doing, it seems like you're really developing like these really successful habits, getting up in the morning, working out, the things that you're posting on your social media, the productivity level that you're putting out there for everybody, and how much of that has been affected by the fact that you're always interviewing and learning from world-class players and coaches. Like how much is that affecting and rubbing off on you personally?
That is a wonderful question. So it's funny because I, by nature, am actually pretty lazy. I would say, if I were to just not think about, my goals and trying to improve, I would just sit on the couch and eat Cheetos. But what I do is I try to constantly surround myself and listen to and talk to experts who are excelling in their field. Even when I work out, I'm either listening to a podcast or I actually listen to some of these motivational YouTube channels of people who are not even in tennis sometimes, and they're talking about productivity and, pushing aside fear and what's on the other side, and just remembering your whys and things like that. So it really helps me to surround myself with and learn from the best in the world, just like what you're providing, Pete, in TennisCon 4, all these the top-notch coaches in the game. So with the podcast and everything and other things, like I'm just constantly trying to learn, and the more I keep hearing and watching people like that, the more I improve. So I think it's really important, especially if you don't have a mentor like who can physically be with you. The next best thing is to attend, TennisCon 4 and listen to other resources like that, because it's made a big impact on me comparing myself to, even like 2 years ago. Big change.
Yeah, I agree. I can see it, and I've thought about it often. Like he's always interviewing all these people, and it's clearly rubbing off on you. And I feel that for my own personal self, is I love the time of year of TennisCon because I'm interviewing all these coaches, just feeding my brain, hearing one great point after the next. And a lot of it is new or presented in a different way to me every year, which is exciting. A lot of it is just like reinforcement that you need to hear. And so I feel during this time too, that I grow as well. And it's just really, really awesome. So I'm excited that in a couple of weeks, we're going to be, I think on the week of October 12th, you can get a free ticket to TennisCon. And, like I've heard Maribon today talk about James Blake. You talked about, who else did you mention?
Emilio Sanchez.
Emilio Sanchez that you interviewed.
Yeah.
I mentioned Rick Macy and Jorge Capasane and Jeff Greenwald. And so all these guys, we both talked about Mark Kovacs today, who's right now working with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. Yeah. And he works with the best pros in the world. And so that's the thing, guys. I mean, this is really good stuff. I hope when you are presented with the opportunity to get a lifetime access pass for $67, you take advantage of it. Either do that or make a promise to me. The next time you go, if you happen to bump into a Gigi Fernandez or Essential Tennis or Mark Kovacs, take 67 cents out of your pocket and say, thank you for your donation to TennisCon. Because that's essentially what you'd be paying, because there's probably going to be about 100 videos this year. And so each video comes out to about 67 cents. So when you see them, you go, hey, great job. Here's 67 cents. What you did.
Please do that and record it. Please do that. Oh man, yeah, heck of a value. For sure, I'd agree with that. Just pick up, lifetime access pass anytime you want. It's like a library where you can just check out all these amazing coaches. You're having problems on a certain stroke, you just go to the forehand lesson and whatnot. It's great value.
All right, man. Well, I know you got to get back to work, or they're probably going to fire you.
Probably. But if I introduce them to you, they meet you, then they probably would be okay with it. But yeah,
Pressing charges.
press charges? What? Oh my gosh!
Taking out of that office in handcuffs. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope not.
All right. Anyway, couple of great things today. Number one is you completely crushed the presentation. Great job.
Thank you.
And you miserably failed at music trivia again. So
I know. Oh, we should recap the list for Mark.
Oh, recap the list real quick. Yes.
Sure. Okay, beautiful. So number one is the first mistake. We don't perform a dynamic warm-up before our matches. Number two, the second mistake, we don't recognize patterns and we don't make strategic adjustments based on them. Number three is we do not play enough smart, aggressive tennis. We tend to play way too passively, and we don't take advantage of our opportunities, such as short balls. Number four is we worry too much about what we cannot control. And then the last tip is we care too much about our NTRP ratings. That's the recap.
All right. And Mark Davis says, very good.
Yeah.
And great job. And
thank you.
Well, I don't know, word bombs or I guess so.
I can be for sure.
Okay, guys, we appreciate it, and we'll see you. I'm probably going to do another live stream next Friday. I'll find somebody for us. Maybe it's going to be John Craig, the legend of John Craig, USPTA Elite Professional. Definitely go to his YouTube channel. Check out the Tennis Files. Maribon is always. How many of those podcasts have you done so far?
165 podcasts.
165 and counting. He is on his way to Joe Rogan status. All right, guys. We'll see y'all later. Take care.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed Peter interviewing me on the 5 biggest mistakes that USTA players make. Let me know what you think about these mistakes. And if you make them, you can just reach me at mehrban@tennisfiles.com. That's MEHRBAN at tennisfiles.com. And again, really would be great to see you at TennisCon 4, which is happening on October 18th. Lasting, I think, 5 days or 6 days in total. There's going to be a lot of amazing coaches and players on there. Gigi Fernandez, Rick Macy, Jeff Salzenstein, and a lot of other great coaches. A ton of really awesome, amazing lessons that you can learn from. So, and I'll be on there too, teaching about offensive topspin lobs. So, if you want to watch me and all those coaches, just go to tennisfiles.com/tenniscon4. That's tennisfiles.com/tenniscon4. And yeah, I really appreciate you listening in. I will leave you with a quote, as I often like to do at the end of the show. And this one is by Mother Teresa. And she said, "Do small things with great love." That's a really great quote. And as always, would appreciate a review of the podcast, which you can do on your podcast app that you use to listen to the show. And with that, again, thank you so much for all your support, and looking forward to bringing you more great interviews and presentations and so forth, and solo episodes as well on areas of your game that you need to improve. So with that, I hope you have a great week, a great month, a great year, and keep improving your game 1% every day, and you will see some really great improvements over time. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you on the next episode of the Tennis Files podcast.